Ever find yourself just, I don't know, admiring a really nice suit? Or maybe a classic car like a Jaguar catches your eye?
You might have the Avengers to thank for that, at least a little.
Because this deep dive, it's all about the Avengers. We're going to uncover how this show, about a secret agent in 1960s Britain, became a global style icon.
And it's way more than just the clothes and the cars. The Avengers went through a huge transformation.
Oh, it definitely did. From those gritty beginnings to that classic campy spy era, it's like a masterclass in reinvention.
It really is.
So let's lay out our intel here. We've got articles, Den of Geek, TV tropes, some great Wikipedia finds.
Oh yeah, we've got the goods.
Be prepared for some serious behind-the-scenes stuff. You know, those wait really moments.
Yeah, the kind of stuff that makes you rethink everything you thought you knew about the Avengers.
Like, most people, I think, when they picture the Avengers, they picture that campy, action-packed show right from the start.
All right, everyone thinks of it that way. But when it debuted back in 1961, it was a completely different beast. Much more down-to-earth, almost a crime drama.
It's like finding out a secret identity. I love it. Tell me more about these early days.
Okay, picture this. Ian Hendry, he's Dr. Keel. A doctor turned, well, amateur investigator after something really tragic happens. And he teams up with this mysterious figure, John Steed.
Ah, John Steed. Played, of course, by the one and only Patrick Macnee.
Exactly.
So was Steed already a legend back then, even in those early days?
He was there, definitely, but not quite in the spotlight yet. In fact, he wasn't even in every episode of that first season.
Really?
But you could feel that dynamic shifting even then. As the show changed, Steed moved more and more to center stage.
That's so interesting how it evolved. It's almost tragic, though, isn't it? Most of that first season, it's lost media.
I know. Only a few episodes survived, plus just a part of the pilot.
It's like a little time capsule, though. A tiny glimpse into what might have been.
Absolutely. A treasure trove for, anyone who's really into television history. What we do get from those early episodes, though, is this really fascinating change, Steed coming out of the shadows, taking charge. And the show itself, it's like it shed its old skin and embraced this more fantastical spy-fi kind of vibe.
So how'd they bridge that gap? Did they just, give Steed a laser umbrella and call it a day?
Not quite. After Ian Hendry left, there was a lot of experimenting going on.
Oh, I bet.
They actually tried out several different partners for Steed.
Really?
Yeah, there was even a nightclub singer for a bit. Venus Smith, I think her name was.
Venus Smith? Okay, that's amazing. I kind of want to see those episodes now.
You do?
It makes you wonder, what direction the show would have gone in if they'd kept that dynamic going.
Absolutely. But, sadly, not many of those episodes exist anymore. She brought a completely different energy to the show, though.
Oh, I bet.
The real turning point, though, the moment when the Avengers as we know it really started to form, that was with Honor Blackman.
Kathy Gale. Now, there's a name that's practically synonymous with the Avengers. The leather, the judo, boots.
The kinky boots.
Iconic. She was such a force.
And think about it. This is the early 1960s.
Right.
She totally challenged how women were usually portrayed on TV back then. This wasn't some damsel in distress. Kathy Gale was skilled, intelligent. She could handle herself in a fight.
Didn't they even give her some of the lines that were originally meant for the male lead?
They did?
It makes sense, though. She was such a departure, such a strong female presence, especially in a time when, things were still so traditional.
And you can see how that one decision just rippled out. It changed the entire trajectory of the show. Even Steed's character, he starts to transform alongside these amazing female partners.
Interesting. Tell me more about how Steed changes.
Well, he starts as this kind of rough around the edges guy, almost a bit morally ambiguous,
Yeah.
But then you have Kathy Gale. And next to her, he starts to refine himself, becoming that classic British gentleman, always impeccably dressed, never without his bowler hat, and of course that umbrella, which always had more to it than met the eye.
Talk about a glow up. But it's true. It's like the show itself was mirroring what was happening in the world at the time.
Yeah.
You had this move towards a more modern sensibility, but it still held onto those classic British ideals.
Exactly. And it's that contrast, that push and pull between old and new, that makes the Steed-Gale partnership so interesting to watch.
Totally.
His old world charm against her independent, modern woman.
But even with all that All that impact from the Kathy Gale years, you're right, the Avengers, it really hit its stride when Diana Rigg stepped onto the scene, right, as Mrs. Emma Peel.
Exactly. Diana Rigg, she brought in what a lot of people consider the golden age of the Avengers.
Sure.
Suddenly, bam, it's in color, it's sleek, it's undeniably cool.
She just embodies that 60s mod style, that wit, that incredible cat suit.
Oh, yeah.
It's like she was made to be a cultural icon.
Right. And even her name. Even her name reflects how much the show had changed.
Okay, tell me more about that. I've always wondered, what's the story there?
Appeal. Short for man appeal.
Oh, wow. I never put that together.
The creators knew exactly what they were doing. It's such a clever nod to how the audience was changing.
And how viewers were responding to this new kind of female character.
Totally.
Which, speaking of names, can you imagine if they had gone with Samantha Peel like they originally planned?
Or even worse, Mantha Peel. Can you imagine?
Oh my gosh. Talk about dodging a bullet.
Seriously.
Good call, Avengers team. But it wasn't just a style upgrade. When Emma arrived, the whole production, it just went next level, right?
Oh, absolutely. Color filming, bigger budgets. They switched from videotape to 35mm film.
Wow.
Huge difference. You can see it on the screen. The Avengers transformed. It's more cinematic now, faster paced, just visually stunning.
And I bet they were able to film on location more often, too. It adds to that whole glamorous globetrotting feel.
Exactly. And the stories, they followed suit. They went all in on those outlandish, playful sci-fi adventures.
Right. We're talking about episodes like Mission, Highly Improbable, where Steed gets shrunk down to, what, like doll size?
Yes. Or The Hidden Tiger, with that army of tiny, ferocious tigers.
I mean, come on.
And of course, you can't forget that amazing Batman parody, The Winged Avenger.
That's what I love about the Avengers, though. That self-awareness, it's like they're winking at the audience, and I think that's a big part of why it still feels so fresh today.
Absolutely. They never took themselves too seriously.
Exactly.
But they were so good at striking that balance. Because even with those crazy plots, they could still build real suspense. Like, take the house that Jack built, where Emma's trapped in that psychological maze. That one's intense.
Oh, for sure. It shows how they could play with those darker, almost psychological elements and still keep that classic Avengers wit.
Exactly.
Which makes me think about John Steed again. His character, it's the one constant throughout all these changes, right? How did they keep him so interesting? Especially as everything around him got, well, kind of unbelievable.
That's the brilliance of Patrick Macnee's performance. And the writing was so smart. As those partners got more modern, more liberated Steed, he goes even further into that British gentleman persona.
I see what you mean.
It's like he embodies tradition, old world charm, a stark contrast to everything changing around him.
And that's not just visual either. The Avengers, they always had this clever dialogue full of double meanings, wordplay, so fun to listen to.
Oh, absolutely. That's one of the things that makes it more than just a simple action series.
Right.
These are intelligent characters. That playful banter, it's fantastic. Even their episode taglines, they're full of that quirky humor.
It all comes together, doesn't it? To create this feeling of fun, of sophistication. It's great.
Totally.
But let's not forget, behind the scenes, there are real people pushing for change. Like, we can't talk about the Avengers without mentioning Diana Rigg's fight for equal pay.
Right. She fought for and won equal pay with the cameraman on the show.
Talk about embodying Emma Peel's spirit in real life.
Seriously. It was a huge deal. It shows how strong and determined she was. And then you have these almost ironic contrasts. Like Patrick Macnee, he played the ever-so-smooth John Steed, right?
Right.
He almost backed out of singing on that Kinky Boots novelty song.
Wait, really?
Yeah, because of stage fright.
Kinky Boots, the song. I had no idea that was connected to the Avengers.
It came out during the Kathy Gale years, but it had this whole resurgence in popularity when it was re-released in the 90s.
That's amazing.
Talk about staying power.
It goes to show you the influence the Avengers had. It's incredible.
It really is.
But speaking of these amazing partnerships, we can't forget Steed's final partner in crime fighting, Tara King.
Yes. Yeah. Tara King, played by Linda Thorson.
She joined at such a pivotal time for the show.
She did.
What was it like having that fresh energy, that youthfulness coming into the mix?
Oh, she brought a lot of energy to the role, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And she was the first of Steed's partners who was actually an agent working for the same organization.
Oh, wow. I never realized that.
Yeah. All the others were kind of, talented amateurs brought in because of their unique skills. But Tara, she's officially part of Steed's world.
That must have changed things up quite a bit.
It did. You can see that reflected in how they interact on screen. Tara often seems kind of starstruck by Steed, you know, like she really looks up to him. And he takes on more of a mentor role with her.
Interesting.
They were able to be a bit more playful, too, even hinting at a possible romance, which was definitely different from the previous pairings.
It's almost like, passing the torch, the veteran agent showing the ropes to the new recruit. But this was also around the time when things behind the scenes with the Avengers, they started to change too, right?
Yeah, I got a little rocky for the show around then.
Yeah.
There was this push to make it more realistic.
Realistic. Interesting.
Yeah, they wanted to move away from the over-the-top plots, less of the humor that had become such a trademark of the Avengers by that point.
Seems like a risky move, after they had so much success with the Emma Peel era. Did it work?
Unfortunately not. That shift in tone, it actually caused a lot of production issues. Yeah. And it hurt the ratings, especially in America.
Oh, no.
It's a shame, too, because in Europe, those Tara King episodes, they were really popular.
Isn't that interesting? It really shows you how unpredictable TV can be. One minute you're this global phenomenon, the next minute you're fighting to stay on the air.
It really is. And it's kind of ironic, the American network, their scheduling decisions, they actually played a big part in the show ending. And this is after they'd helped to revive it a few years earlier.
Wow. Talk about a cautionary tale.
Right. But even though the Avengers ended in '69, its legacy, it's still going strong.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm not just talking about those iconic outfits, the witty lines, although those definitely made their mark.
For sure. But the Avengers, it went way beyond the screen, didn't it? I mean, we're talking comic books, novels.
Oh, yeah.
There was even a radio series in South Africa. The Avengers, it really did become part of pop culture in a way very few shows do.
It's true.
Yeah.
And I think that lasting appeal, it shows you that the show tapped into something universal.
Yeah.
That thrill of adventure, the charm of those sophisticated spies.
And those partnerships.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those powerful partnerships that can take on anything.
Right. And we can't forget about the fashion. Emma Peel's catsuits, Kathy Gale's leather.
So iconic.
They didn't just stay on screen, They influenced how a whole generation dressed.
It shows you how visually striking the show was.
Total.
They understood that style could be a powerful form of self-expression. But even beyond the aesthetics, the Avengers had more to offer.
Right. What do you think those deeper messages were?
I think they were about fighting injustice, being true to yourself, using your intelligence and your wit to overcome obstacles. Those ideas, they're just as powerful today as they were back then.
I completely agree. And it's amazing how well the show holds up, even with some of those wilder storylines.
Right.
The characters, that dynamic between Steed and his partners, it just works. It's timeless.
It really is. And we can't forget the man behind it all, Sidney Newman.
Oh, right.
Right. He didn't just create the Avengers. He also had a hand in shaping another iconic British series, Doctor Who.
Wow. Talk about leaving your mark on television. From stylish spies to time travel.
I know, right?
Sidney Newman knew how to capture people's imaginations.
He really did. He knew how to push the envelope, how to create shows that were both really entertaining, but also made you think. A tough thing to pull off.
It really is. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of the Avengers, here's something I keep coming back to. We've talked about the evolution of the show, those unforgettable characters, the humor, the style, everything. But how did they do it? How did the creators balance those over-the-top plots, that campiness, with those moments of real suspense?
Right.
How do they make us believe, even for a second, that Steed could take down a giant robot? Or Emma could outsmart some mind control computer?
That's the magic of the Avengers.
It really is.
It shows you how powerful storytelling can be. They created characters we connect with. They found that perfect balance between pure escapism and genuine emotion. It's brilliant.
They really did pull it off. But there's still so much more to discover about the Avengers, So much to unpack, to think about within each episode, each clever line, every time Steed throws that hat. So tell us, what era of the Avengers speaks to you? What are your favorite moments? What are your theories? Keep the conversation going because, as John Steed would say, Avengers assemble.
Or maybe in this case, Avengers discuss.
Yes, I love that.